Hey, what's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Thanks for joining us again for another X Spiritual panel. So, guys, this is going to be a pretty interesting one. We got a couple of good topics in store for everybody today. We're going to be breaking down spiritual egotism, and we're going to touch a little bit on spiritual financial blocks and some of the financial struggles a lot of us on our spiritual evolution face. If you guys did not catch the panel from yesterday, I highly suggest you go and give that one a watch as well. It was with Transcending Ascension, uh, Sam, Penny Consciously, and then we have Karen Lisa, who were on the panel yesterday. So yeah, definitely go ahead and give that a watch as well. I have it reposted on my X page. But nonetheless, let's welcome everybody to the stage. We have a newcomer to the panel this week, although you guys have seen him on my show before multiple times. I have been on his show as well. Everybody, let's welcome Don Rogers to his first X Spiritual panel. How's it going, man?
Hey, Stephen, thanks for having me. I'm doing good. I'm glad you guys invited me. This should be fun.
Absolutely, man. Of course, we have himself, the Lion, David, returning with us again. How's it going, David?
Hey, good afternoon, both. How are you? Glad to have you with us, Don.
I know,
Thanks.
right? And then we have Karen Lisa. Hi, Karen. How's it going?
Hey everyone, it's great. Thanks for having me here. Ready for some good vibes, working together, changing the world for sure.
And of course, last but not least, we cannot forget the person who started this great idea. We have Transcending Ascension, Mrs. Diana. What is going on?
Literally on the move, but I didn't want to miss it. And I'm happy to be here, excited about the topic. Glad to welcome Dawn. Welcome. And good to see you again, Karen. Yesterday we did a goddess edition, and that was really fun and interesting to just tap into the energy. So I'm excited to do that again today.
For sure, guys. All right. So, first topic on the discussion board, we have spiritual egotism. For some of the listeners and viewers, you might be asking what I mean by this. Well, I mean, we kind of see it everywhere, guys. I mean, take a look at social media. Take a look at a lot of these quote unquote starseed influencers. Take a look at how spirituality in a lot of ways has been commercialized. It's been kind of pushed in potentially not the greatest way it can be pushed, kind of to the top of some of these social media feeds. And we also see a lot of these people claiming these titles, such as Ascended Master or as Guru, self-proclaimed titles that a lot of these people who are claiming these titles, it seems they lack the humility and the empathy and the character to really be holding a title such as this. So let's kind of dive into it, guys. Don, what are your thoughts on spiritual egotism, and have you experienced it yourself in this community?
I've only been a part of this community for a very short time. As anybody who knows my backstory, it's only been about a year and a half or so. But I absolutely have seen this, and I've run into it a couple of times where, people that seem and present as though they're in it for the right reason end up being all about self promotion. And, I have the most view counts. I even have had it with like energetic practitioners and other show hosts where it's just like they come off as this divinely directed person, and then it seems that the ego slips in and it's all about them and what's going to promote them. And I actually have to reference you, sir, about one of the most non-egotistical things I've ever seen. This man promoted my show against his own that's going to be airing at the same time. So that was absolutely the most non-spiritually egotistical thing I've ever seen in my life.
Thanks, man. Well, dude, you got Sarah coming on, man, and I know it's Jason Spinjo. What's up? Thanks for being here, guys. Hell yeah. But you got Sarah coming on, man, and it's your first solo with her, so like, yeah, dude. I mean, when you even asked me, like, because I know why you asked me, there was that little situation that occurred, but when you asked me, like, do you mind if I do the show on Wednesday at 6 or 6:30? Because I know that's when your show is. And I'm like, dude, go right ahead, man. Like, no problem. Like, I'm just happy for you that you're having that interview, man. man. So no worries, no worries. David, you and I both know somebody.
Yeah,
Yep, who was
I know.
a
Yeah.
yep, a spiritual egotist. But man, let's kind of get to you next.
Mm.
So has your experience with spiritual egotism been in this community,
Well,
man? Let's hear some of it.
oh my, I could spend an entire show just talking about this one subject. And it's funny you bring up that one person, because they're far from the only one that I've ever encountered that has this, I don't know, sickness. I mean, plenty, all across the board, but yeah, even in the so-called spiritual community. I mean, pretty much all along my journey, I've, my experience has been, because I've been, maybe not at this as long as you, Stephen, but I feel like I was given like the crash course or something. And so yeah, I awoke like 3.5 years ago, and immediately I started encountering people who seemed like, not just seemed like, they had information, knowledge, experience that I needed. But then after that exchange took place, they quickly became someone that I had to like get out of my life as soon as possible, because they had big problems. It was almost like they had all this knowledge and this seeming spiritual awareness, but when it came to living it, they weren't there at all. And it just like wow, okay. Okay, never judge a book by its cover. That goes both ways, I guess. And I try not, beyond that, I try not to be too judgmental. Right, like I don't know what their actual situation is. I just know what I observed and what I felt, and that was enough for me to say, I don't want any part of it. I mean, I'll just one example. So when I first started to have, I guess like the star seed phase of my awakening, which this began in, I've had like many awakenings, you could say, usually several a year. And so like in the summer of 2022, that's when I really started to become aware of like this angelic and starseed lineage that was awakening in me. And I met this person on Telegram, and she was from the UK, and kind of older, so she was kind of like this motherly type figure, is kind of how she portrayed herself. And she taught me a lot of things about being a starseed. And after I got to know her for, I don't know, not very long, maybe a month or so, she just comes out and says, "Oh, by the way, those Galactic Federation people, don't trust them. I'm an Anunnaki dragon, and you should listen to everything that I say." And I'm like, okay, okay, well, let's see where this goes. And so then she taught me all about gematria. So, and I went on to create an app called Gematria Wizard. Like I am a Gematria wizard, and I learned that from her. So, she knew some things. Like she demonstrated on more than one occasion that she could predict the future, like very accurately, spookily. And but so eventually, like though, she almost took on this persona of being my mother. And I didn't ask for this, okay? She just kind of took it on. And she then took it upon herself to track down one of my friends, my very dear friend and sister, Sandra, who's been a very powerful spiritual guide for me all along. She like tracked her down and like accused her of being a Satanist and like threatened her and stuff. And I was like, okay, this needs to terminate immediately. So like I cut her off completely. And And then about a year later, I happened to hear from her again. It was much less acrimonious because I kept my distance, but it was just interesting to see, because in that year, like, I had grown so much spiritually, but she seemed like she was still in the same place where I had left her, even though she had gone through some things herself. So I don't know. That's like, she had a lot of knowledge, higher level knowledge. I mean, she claimed to be part of a bloodline. I won't even say who, but there was reasons for me to believe that she wasn't all full of BS, because she demonstrated definitely some ability. Yeah. So, and that's just one, like, I don't want to take up all the time. Maybe we can do an episode sometimes, because I have a lot of crazy stories of like crazy people that I've come across.
We should. I think that's a good idea. Definitely, we can expand upon this for sure. Because I have stories too. Trust me. I've even spoken on about one on my show a few times. I'll dive into it after everybody else is done. But let's head over to Diana next. Diana, what are some of your experiences that you've had with spiritual egotism in our community?
Well, I'll start by saying it's a lot, because the spirit is fire. I'm predominantly fire. So I'm very here for the fire. And you see these egos almost everywhere with almost anyone, because you cannot really talk about spirit without some general layer of arrogance, because it is of that energy. It's just how the human gets hit with it. So as someone who's predominantly fire, I've been in and out of it myself. I've been through it because I've been on this journey for so long. And Stephen, you would especially know this, and anyone that was awakened before COVID, you're very alone. You're the only one that's spiritual. So even back when I was a kid, and I'd go through pockets, so when I found this Bible and I'd read it, and if my siblings bothered me, I'd be like, you're gonna burn in hell. And I would like adopt this persona to defeat them. And it becomes an armor, right? And then you travel, and then you go in and out. And then there's other moments where like you just look around and you see that you're the only one that knows this. And so I was very egotistical in those years when it was just me. And I would be very preachy, and it would baffle me how these people just did not understand. It was exhausting. And I became that. So you could see how it grows out of a place of wounding. I start to like, and then when you're looking at the people now on the main stage, and they have so many people, the really big ones like Joe Dispenza, Bruce Lipton, the top tiers, Sarah, we know, no ego whatsoever. Matthias DiStefano, no ego. You're going to find it in the smaller big ones, right? Because again, it's coming from a place of wounding. And they're insecure with their own knowledge. They're worried that Sally Steve has a better thing to say than they do. And it just continues because spirit is so linked. The fire, spirit and fire are one and the same on an energetic level. So it's naturally going to come with arrogance. It's naturally going to come with ego. So that's my experience is more strongly done in myself. Because it's in myself, I was able, the only time I stayed stuck in it was that cult I've told you about, Stephen, that I was in, that online one, and the leader was like, don't only listen to my information. I only stayed for so long because I wanted to solidify with someone to help narrow in my teaching, because I've been learning all over the place, and I wanted that grounding. But I saw that ego in her. I still see it when I come across her video. I think she probably loves more in it. So I'll end this here, but it's just, we're going to see it, and it comes from personal wounding. And I don't understand how they can continue to act like that when they know we're all watching. And I don't understand how they're missing that piece in their own education. Like, how do they not see it?
I'm with you 100%, 100%. I will definitely touch on what you said after we get to Karen. Karen, let's kind of hear some of your experiences and your stories with spiritual egotism, even if it had to do with yourself. So yeah, let's hear some of your experiences with it and some of the interesting things you've seen come out of our community so far.
Hmm. Interesting is the word for sure. Um, so this is actually only the third time I've done a live stream. I'm a very since 2020, I guess, like no more internet, no more social. So I kind of felt like, yeah, that's a good thing because then I wasn't distracted or trying to debate, not trying to argue, not trying to show evidence of something or saying, hey, look, here's a pattern, notice the pattern, like all of that. So similar to Diana, actually, is very. I spent those years not as a content creator, but an observer, a
Mhm.
student, and just like watching everything, reading everything, and just soaking it all in. Um, for me, um, yeah, I think it was always I check myself a lot because when I observe so much lack of self-awareness in the people around that I'm like, okay, everyone's a mirror, everyone's a mirror. Crazy story is back in I think like 2018 or 19, I actually did want to create a YouTube channel and I named it like Think Mirror. You create everything, take responsibility. So really doing that work to humble the ego like I'm nobody, I don't matter. It's the message, it's the signal. You can't stop the signal. That's what's important, not me. I'm just one person. But also on the same breath understanding that not that I am nobody, but I am everybody. We are one, we are strong. So it's like holding both concepts and not um like self-shaming myself or holding myself down because that's ego. No, ego is not bad when it's from within, when it's from a
Mhm.
place of truth, honor, integrity, compassion, love, all of the things that we're trying to manifest in the world. We must first cultivate, master, and maintain within ourselves. So, yeah, the ego thing, very interesting. And yeah, because for years, I actually had worked a decade in radio broadcasting. So, which is crazy. People are like, why aren't you doing videos? Why aren't you doing videos? All my clients are like, oh, why aren't you? And I'm just like, it's just not there yet. I wasn't getting that inner nudge. I wasn't seeing the signs. But then, within the past few months, and then connecting with people on X. And what's funny, Stephen, is that I've watched your videos for a while, and Diana,
Oh,
like
thanks.
your account, and I'll actually say this because on my phone I don't have the app, so I don't participate a super lot. But the two of you, I actually like, especially Diana. Your website's amazing because it was like, oh my gosh, that's me. And I actually bookmarked the pages and the folder
Oh,
I named collab goals. Like you guys were collaboration goals because like the things. So
thanks.
just putting my focus on people who resonate with me. And I just, I've seen the grifters. I've worked with the grifters. I worked in metaphysical crystal shop, Reiki shop, like all of that. So lots of stories. But again, it's like I learned so much from so many beautiful people that had great talents. And then observing, what they're talking about their life and always speaking negativity and fear and it's just amazing to me that you have the knowledge. Why are you not doing it? So, and then that kind of caused me to retreat from the IRL kind of a thing, which led to kind of like this, hey, I need to be in monk mode for a while. I need to be with my angels, my ancestors, my higher self connection to all that is, ever will be, and just like finding that comfort space and trusting that I throw out the broadcast, the signal. I want to find people that resonate. I know I'm not alone. I know we're all connected. And we were purposely, seated physically all around the planet in strategic areas. It's like, okay, just trust and allow, trust and allow. And yeah, and observing the ego of others who, they want to sell the book and make the videos and have all the followers. It's like, no, I celebrate people's work and say, hey, look at this, look at that. I don't need to create everything. I only am meant to create what I'm meant to create, and the people who are meant to find it will find it. That that cooperation, not competition kind of an energy, because there is enough. And we've been so programmed to think there's not enough and we all need to scramble and fight and worry. So I'm really appreciative to have a group like this to point out these kind of areas in the spiritual community, because everyone's learning at their own pace and coming into it at their own time with their own experiences and biases, and that's okay.
I'm with you 100% on that. And even tying together everybody's point here, there's a clear picture, at least in my eyes, that's being painted. But I'll get into a little bit about my experience real quick. In the very beginning, it was there was a little bit of in me. I'm not gonna lie, because when you first wake up, it's like I've said on the show a couple times before, I might as well have been standing on my roof with a megaphone going, do you know there's fluoride in your water? Do you know that the Federal Reserve is fake? Our currency is fake. I was an overzealous little shit back then. I'm just being 100% honest about it. But of course, there was a period of time, into my journey where I realized that you can have all of this knowledge, you can have all of this information, but if you're not healing yourself and transforming it into wisdom, learning how to integrate this knowledge and this all of this information within yourselves, embody it into a way of life, you're not really doing it. So you know what I mean? You could know every single conspiracy, you could know every single government paper, you could know every single freaking spiritual book. If you're not living it and you're not healing yourself, but then so that was kind of the one for me. But actually my very first taste of spiritual egotism I got, so kind of like you, Karen, I was working at a holistic center. This is when I was living on the East Coast. The name of the holistic center was Rising Phoenix. I was teaching sacred geometry and occult studies over there, and me and the owner of this holistic center would butt heads a lot. We would, because she started to change her attitude towards me when I said there was going to be a spiritual revolution on this planet. Now, I mean, you even take a look at the context of how I said it. I said spiritual revolution. I didn't say bloody war, bloody revolution. There's going to be death and fear, all that. But that's how this individual took it. And I ended up getting kind of a smack on the wrist for even just saying that word, revolution. And I still even remember during the conversation with her, I'm like, why is this even being brought up? Young 25, 26-year-old me at that point. I'm like, why is this even being brought up? She goes, well, revolution's just a dark word. Okay, it's a dark word. And I'm like, context applies here nonetheless, though. But she was the kind of person, I walked in on one of her classes before I was getting ready, and she was literally telling these women how to manifest BMWs into their lives and things like this. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, isn't the part of it, I'm thinking to myself as I'm hearing this too, I'm like, isn't the part of our spiritual evolution, isn't that to have non-attachment with worldly goods? Is that part of it? And and she constantly, seemed like she tried to one up me all the time. She constantly seemed even in class, when she would come in my class and sit, through what I was saying, she would always ask these questions that would try to contradict me. And then I remember I was just taken off of the schedule without anybody telling me, what was going on. And I remember I showed up, I had a conversation with her, we ended up parting ways. But that was really my first taste of seeing that not everybody in this community are doing things for the right reasons. Not everybody in this community has their head and their heart and their hands in it the way they should. So, I mean, really where I think it comes from is just kind of what I said before. It's that lack of healing, but that increasing of the knowledge and the information. And I think that's why, all of us have come to realize our healing is probably the most important thing, if not the most important thing about our spiritual evolution, because it makes us able to condition ourselves, when we have these new revelations, when we have these new remembrances. It conditions us to act accordingly with them, and not allow our heads to get blown up. And even kind of from what Diana was saying, it is in the beginning, it's because it's coming from a wound, because especially back when, like before COVID, before a lot of people woke up, like like you felt like you came across this information or like this realization that nobody had, and you're like trying to almost like, preach it, spread the word, because like you just got to look outside of Plato's cave. You just looked at the sun. You were like, oh my God, I see it. It's great. Everybody take a look at this. Like, and it's so, and of course, when we try to, force a horse to drink after leading it to water, it never ends up well. So, but nonetheless, let's kind of go over some solutions for this we can kind of discuss, because we see it all over X. I do think because in our collective right now too, because things like egotism, narcissism, psychopathy, and sociopathy are put on a pedestal in our society, and this also influences our collective energy as well. How we integrate this collective energy, how we, kind of disperse it within ourselves, how it affects us. So, let's start off with Karen, if she doesn't mind, because she went last. We'll have her go first this time. What do you think are some solutions, at least we could do within ourselves, to stop us from gravitating towards that egotistical spiritual error, or that mindset? Because I think, for me at least, I do think the healing should come first before we start absorbing all of the knowledge. But let's hear it in your words. What do you think is a great solution?
Oh, it's super simple. Like it's so have you seen that movie Varsity Blues?
It's been a while,
Football,
but
James
yes.
Van Der Beek. But there's a part where John Voight as the coach was just like had the keys and he was like beating them over the head and the helmet, saying, stick to the basics, stick to the basics. Like that's pretty much like what I revert to. I'm like, ooh, am I feeling when I feel myself get carried kind of like, super high vibration, because I try to keep it neutral, understanding the pendulum swings. Don't want to get too high because the equivalent will follow eventually. So it's like, okay, when really cool stuff happens, this is normal. Not get excited. Like, hey, everything goes my way. It's all green lights for the rest of my life. It's good. It's good. I'm good. I'm fine. Stick to that's my basics. Like, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm okay. And just pulling myself back when I find myself being like, oh yeah, start, the peacocky energy. But yes, but also recognizing that, some of the things that we create, whether we create it, channel from our higher self, but we make something amazing. It's like, yes, you're allowed to celebrate it, but you don't necessarily have to like tell people. There is that one spiritual law of like silence, of like keeping things under wraps, not telling people all your ideas and your stuff, because it's like you're filling this balloon with your energy of like, I'm creating this amazing thing, not talking about it. I'm not going to let the energy leak out of this bubble that I'm creating, and just like, yeah, it's fine. It's my baby. It's incubating. When it's ready, I will release the baby to the world. But yeah, just checking myself and just trying to realize there's only the now, and with the intention of whatever it is I want to create, it's already done. There's no need to, throw it all at everybody, because people get jealous, people get envious, people steal I've had that happen so many times. Massive reader, massive writer, poets, philosophy, I love it all. And there's times where, because I also have a background in marketing, PR, as far as like a government agency, education and welfare stuff. So, I know all about how to take something complicated and make it simple, and just, just be like, hey, it's okay. Some people are on their path. I see their ego. Okay. Do I want to engage in it? Do I want to maybe not watch, maybe unsubscribe? I don't know, but understanding, stick to the basics. You get back what you put out. If I put out a snarky comment and say, really, really, or just say, you start typing a comment and then you start deleting it because it's like, no, don't put that out there. One of the basics that I always go, and this was something that was back in the day, my early awakenings when I was still in like a golden handcuffs kind of a job that I hated, but hey, it was worthwhile. And I was asked to do the monthly wellness and employee morale newsletter. So okay, like I'll do this out of my own free time. And I remember, I put effort into it, laying out this little 2-pager that went in everybody's mailboxes, physical mailboxes, by the way. But overhearing somebody once saying, "Oh man, this is so stupid," and like really hit my heart because like I really cared about what I put in there. But now I have the awareness that doing that newsletter really opened me up to a lot of things. I was looking at websites like Tiny Buddha or just anything in general, inspirational scripture. But one that really stuck to me that I put in one was a little positive meme that had a little girl with yellow daffodils. And it was about think before you speak, the power of your words. And so I pull myself back before I say something or try to comment on somebody. I despise unsolicited advice. If I don't ask you for your opinion, that's something I'm working through. So I have awareness of, I don't tell people, if they don't ask me, I'm not going to tell them. But if they ask me, I'm going to tell them the truth. So whatever. But is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? And that's what catches my ego. Is it necessary for me to say that or sure? Yeah, not really. And then the K is kind or care, But sticking to the basics, the power of your words, your attention, and just self-awareness. And as you said about giving people the grace of, hey, we all went a little schizo off the rails when we first went down some rabbit holes. And yeah, I probably would have done the same thing had I followed through. But funny enough, YouTube made me like wait a week or two before they'd verify and let me do anything. So by the time that happened, that wave of, oh my gosh, I got to put stuff online, it kind of passed me by and I was on to other things. But I think a lot of people who are aware, they recognize, like we all went through that kind of, oh my gosh, I had to tell everybody everywhere I went, like, do you know this is happening? Oh my gosh, you got to watch this video, or, but but it takes time for everyone to find that grounding, find that balance, and realizing, hey, the way to change the outer is to shift and uplift the inner energy. So yeah,
100%. So kind of what comes to mind there too. It is like you'll have that battle between the ego and the higher self, like you were saying with the snarky comment, like, somebody can, that's why sometimes I just ignore them now. Like I'll say something and somebody will just come up and, say something ridiculous. And, but also too, kind of what you were saying, not telling everybody about everything. That's something also, so I'm going to actually borrow a quote from my wife. She got this from somewhere, but she says, you got to be like lasagna because real G's move in silence. And so like, that's kind of, where it comes to mind, like, yeah, I like your basic setup, if it hits these points, is it really something, that you should bring forth into creation? That's definitely a good way to go about it too. But yeah, no, I like your method. I think that's a great solution. I mean, I think it also helps keep you honest with yourself too. And that's something, we're our biggest cheerleaders, but we can be our biggest critics as well. And, sometimes that can fall out of balance. Sometimes we can be too much of our own cheerleader. And, sometimes we can be too much of our own critic. And, it's good to find a happy and healthy balance of that for sure. All right, Diana, let's kind of pick your brain a little bit here. What do you think? What are some of your solutions for spiritual egotism, especially for your own personal journey, but any tips or tricks that can help anybody else kind of avoid that little bit of zealousness or overzealousness we all can feel at times?
Yeah, I could be a pro at this, and I love tips and tricks. That's what my channel basically is I try to concentrate people with the tips and the tricks because I am actually a problematic person naturally. I'm one of like not a bad person, but like your standard whiny, ego, olden day person. That was me. So transcending that person has taught me so much. And an image that came to me actually years ago is what kind of sticks with me. And if anyone knows American Ninja Warrior, you can probably see this visual. And that's, I can't do two hands because I'm holding the phone. But imagine the two hands with the bar, and he's climbing up the thing, or she, and they can only go so far as long as they can't like keep going up this way. They can't keep going up this way. They have to, it has to be semi-even. And it can go a little bit this way, a little bit that way. And you just have to maintain not even a full balance, but the back and the forth. So it comes a lot into honoring the self, but again, not overly aggrandizing the self. And this is where alchemy comes in. This means learning to suffer, to go through suffering, to have somebody comment that you're schizophrenic, that you're whatever they want to say. Someone said my voice was annoying once, and they liked what I was, the wisdom, but my voice was too annoying. And they just couldn't do it. And they were like mad about it. It was like an angry comment too. And I was like, okay, I can't fix that one. So that's a real ego thing to get through, but I did, and it does these things to you. So like the next time you get a similar insult, you're cool, and it's not fake, and it's not suppression, it's not regression. It's actually like when you go through that alchemical fire of actual suffering. Like this is what I mean when I used to be a bad person. My bad personness was just refusing to take personal responsibility, sitting around whining all the time, poor me about everything. When the truth is I just lacked the ability to suffer. If I could just suffer through what happened, I could get through it. Now it's like, whatever, that's nothing. And then you take that and you do it with anything. So then when you have ego and somebody says something to you, like this can happen even if someone doesn't agree with you. And I'm a Sagittarius too, top of the fire. And one of the biggest things about a Sagittarius is you don't disagree with them. So that's hilarious. So that was a huge thing. Like if somebody said a counterpoint to mine, I'd be like, you have no idea what you're talking about. And I would just go ham. Because I would see myself, because I did, to be fair, like I like read constantly, I learned constantly, but one thing I've come to learn in this world is the information we have to learn is infinite. A lot of it ends up being symbolic. It could be multiple timelines, it could be implants. Like we've learned about so many things along the way that literally anybody's opinion actually could be right. And even if I don't think it is, I've learned to just, I'll say my truth. I will say my truth, but I have completely and authentically learned to honor their truth as well, to listen to what they're saying and see that like from their eyes. And so that right there is a deep trick to integrate. Oh my God, they're quiet when I'm not talking, believe it or not. And as soon as I start talking, they're like, oh yeah, mommy's here, let's ask for stuff. So
It's okay. No worries. No,
but
no
so,
worries.
yeah. And then the last thing I would just say is deep breathing, because as you're suffering, deep breathing through the nose as deep as possible, holding it, like there's the square breath, there's the 7-3, like there's so many variations to do the breathing. Just focus on as deep as possible. Feel your lungs actually stretching, because that is actually energetically stretching out your aura, and that's actually going to help you become more fluid, so that these traumas and these woundings, and they just blow through you, and it allows you to suffer, but suffer with a purpose. So you get more crystalline, you get more solidified in your spirit. Like the whole point is to bring the spirit in more to the body. So all these things that we do, like that guy climbing up the thing, so like it would be like intellectually growing smarter, but then making sure I'm taking care of my body, and then making sure I'm dealing with my past trauma, and then making sure I'm listening to other people, and making sure I'm teaching, because teaching is actually why I started on YouTube, because you have to teach to fully integrate. At least that's an ancient teaching that I fully believe in. It absolutely skyrocketed me through the way I was able to comprehend information, which is so huge when we have to learn so much. And dropping the ego is advised, because you learn way more when you do, because you're open to anything, really. Like anything is a possibility. So I advise it.
I think that's great. No, because especially what you were saying about teaching. kind of helping you integrate that on a deeper level. I can 100% agree with that. Especially when I started doing my show, and I started relaying what I knew, and relaying my message out to everybody. It definitely helped me integrate that a little bit, especially if you're taking the role of a teacher. You do have to drop the ego, but no, exactly. It's about the balance, kind of just how you listed it, when you were climbing up the bars, and it's like, I'm getting this intellectual progress, but am I taking care of myself? Am I working on being a better person? Am I doing this? It's about kind of balancing, all of these acts that we have within us, because we know that our spiritual evolution is multifaceted. I mean, it's simple in the aspect that we're connecting with spirit deeper, but it can, in a lot of ways, be complex in all of its little facets that we experience. From the increase in knowledge, to the understanding about healing, to the taking better care of ourselves, to the am I being a better person. Also, kind of keeping, again, self-honesty really is key, because we have to keep ourselves in check, especially when we know we do something, that probably isn't the best. I mean, we're human, we all make mistakes, don't get me wrong, but I think that self-honesty really plays into that whole part of it, because like, you could admit to yourself you were wrong at that point, and you made a mistake, and this is where I need to improve upon, instead of going like, oh, that was just some peasant, like, who commented that negative comment, I'm so above them, or but exactly kind of what you were saying too. Understanding to sit with that feeling and not become attached to it, and to not let it rule you, and cause you to, kind of stoop to their level and act that way too. That's a really huge part of it as well. Let's hop over to David real quick. David, let's hear some of your solutions for spiritual egotism, whether it has to do with your own personal evolution or tips and tricks that can help others.
Well, speaking from my own personal evolution, I mean, Samael is called in some circles the angel of ego death. And if you read the Old Testament, for example, there's many examples of him doing that in the book of Genesis, in the book of Job, most famously, and in my life as well. Samael Aun Weor called the ego a bad secretary, and it is the interpreter of our entire human experience, right? Everything that we take in from our outer world comes in through the ego. And so it interprets that, I guess, in the best way that it can. and then that is our reality, right? And he said that most people, almost everyone, spends their entire life never more than 3% conscious. And that's just not enough. Like, everyone who's in that state is basically unconscious. They are not living as a conscious being. You have to get it up, he said, I think, to at least 6% to experience spiritual consciousness. And so it's like that the animal part of our brain is controlling us instead of the spirit, which is the part of us that lasts. Like, there's even science now, right, that says that our heart actually has more neurons than our brain. And many times, like, the memories, now I don't know if this can be proven with science, but I have heard it said that, like, the memories that carry over from lifetime to lifetime, they're stored in the heart rather than in the brain. That's why if you've ever maybe sensed something from a past life or remembered something from a past life, it's almost like, for me anyway, it's like I can remember the emotions, but maybe not, it's not like remembering like a movie. It's like, it's almost like a snapshot, and I remember how I felt when it happened, and that's it, right? And that's because it's the emotions that carry over. So we have to, like, awaken our consciousness and allow the divine to control our actions rather than the animal. And I mean, it's a process, man, because until you reach a state where you just finally come to accept the fact that, like, we are human, and it's just something that we're going to struggle with, and we have to keep it under control every day. It's not, when I first started to
Mhm.
spiritually awaken, I'm like, oh, all right, I conquered my ego, I've arrived, I am ready, no. I mean, the Apostle Paul wrote, I died daily to self, right? And he was talking about ego death. Some people consider him controversial, I guess, but I would say that's more the church is doing. He was
Mhm.
obviously a student of Plato, and would have agreed with a lot of his teachings.
I'm with you. I'm with you, man. It is. It's a daily thing. It's almost like when kind of like a lot of us who are overcoming addictions in our life, or who have overcome addictions. Whether it be to drugs, gambling, sex, you name it. Addictions run wild, but it's a day-to-day thing to kind of keep ourselves in check. You know what I mean? It's a day-to-day thing to kind of keep ourselves in line and to not stray back down that road. But again, you bring up a very point. It's about that self accountability too. It's about holding that in our awareness. It's about understanding that we are human. Like we're gonna have humans are gonna human. That's the biggest thing. That I love the phrase that I kind of always put to that what you just said, because we do. Even me, I'm not perfect, man. Like I have my moments where like I like wake up in the morning and I'm like, where's the fucking table? Like, where is it? Like, it's time today to flip it. But like, I get it. It is. But it's also that plays into that self accountability and that self honesty too. Like, you have to, understand this is a part about us, and that's why I love the analogy of, or the symbolism of how Shiva wore the serpent, because the serpent is symbolizing the ego in this. And I've talked about this on my show before. Shiva wore the serpent around his neck like an ornament. And for what to me that means is that it's putting the ego in its place. Yes, we know we need it to exist here in the human realm, or else we'd be just laying on our floor at one with everything all the time. And we can't really achieve much here, in the sense of doing things and progressing if we're just laying on our floor one with everything at all times. Don't get me wrong, that's great for sometimes. You need that, but like as far as it being all the time, though, yes. But that's very good, David. I would completely agree. Don, let's hear your thoughts on this, my friend. What do you think are some good tips and tricks to help yourself avoid going down the spiritual egotism road?
Well, first, staying on the theme of your awakening or your understanding making you sound like a crazy person, I have to give a shout out to my interdimensional exit buddy, Canadian Spinja, because she by far gave the best description of mine just yesterday. And she basically compared it to Goodwill Hunting meets Rain Man, because that's what I sounded like. And I, like I said, I just started my journey, but I was a rambling, brilliant moron for about 3 weeks when this all kicked off, right? And it did come off as egotistical, and I did come off like I was smarter than everybody. And she would be like, "Yo, dial it back, because you're getting hard to even understand. Like, stop." Right? You're gonna have to dumb it down. And she even used those words, like you're coming off like you know everything. Just slow your roll. And she checks me, and I agree with you as well that you do have to do frequent check of self, because it's easy to get carried away when you start to get these understandings. Absolutely. And that kind of leads into my best tip. Is it came from Chris Matthew, is that malleable sense of understanding. Because when you become dogmatic in a belief system and start speaking from that dogmatic belief system, you're unwilling to accept any other new information, and you do come off very self-righteous and egotistical. And I think that's one thing that everybody really should be aware of, is when you stop being willing to accept new knowledge, and this is what it is because it's what I know now.
100%, man. And that's a very good way of putting it too. It's good that your interdimensional exit buddy keeps you in check. And Spinja, I saw that. I appreciate the kind words that I helped you with your sanity. I can imagine it was very fun to watch. I can imagine, but no, I mean, and like you said, having that malleability too, dude, understanding, and I'll even tie into one of my biggest tips and tricks. And I know you guys have heard me say this before, but I've been at this for 17 years and I still don't have it all figured out. And to think in any way, shape, or form that you have this all figured out, that you are convinced that you know everything there is to know, that you have gained the understanding of all of the deepest secrets of this existence and this universe. Let me tell you what you don't. And I'm just being 100% honest with you. That would be one of my biggest tips and tricks. You're going to come across information. You're going to come across new things. I mean, shoot, dude, I'm at a point now where it's like, I just watched this video the other day that there could potentially be, like 2 other planets involved in our planetary system that aren't told to us. Like, I mean, and yes, it weirdly resonates. But again, am I, acting like I got this figured out? No, it's just another idea, another concept. I mean, yes, things about this resonate. Like, it sounds awesome. Like, it sounds cool. Like something I definitely want to explore. But, it could be like, as to what Diana was saying, it could be from one timeline or one density, or, it could be something like this. So to act like you have everything all figured out and that you are, the baseline of all knowledge here and that you have received the gift, that would be my biggest thing. Keep yourself malleable. Like Dawn said, you can have these core fundamental beliefs. We all do. Like, I do believe we are spiritual beings or higher dimensional beings having a human experience. I mean, there's things that I don't believe humans are originally from here. Like, I do not think we originate from here, things like that. But I keep an open mind, and I understand that as I grow, my perspective grows, and then I might view information differently as my perspective grows. So that is also another tip. Also, as well, man, remember, you're a human too. You are subject to, even though this kind of gets different as you go on your spiritual evolution, still, if a comet were to hit the Earth tomorrow or an asteroid were to hit the Earth tomorrow, you're just as good as dead as any other human out there. So I mean, that's also it as well. Just because you're on this path of spiritual evolution, just because you're having these remembrances, these realizations, it doesn't make you better than anybody else. It doesn't make you above anybody else. And if anything, it gives you more responsibility. It gives you more accountability, because you now have been shown this information from the divine. And now the divine is going to hold you accountable to your awareness. And as you grow in awareness, the divine's going to hold you more and more accountable to your growing awareness. So, if anything, it's about responsibility. It's about accountability. It's not about going out there, and it's not about acting like, you are the next prophet. I mean, we probably all are prophets to a degree here. We have that vibe about us, but it's not going out there and, sitting on the soapbox on the corner and casting shame upon anybody who does not know or, does not see things the way you do. I love all the solutions, guys. Great. We have some time. I wanted to touch into this topic. We spoke about it a little bit in the beginning of the show. So we covered spiritual egotism. This is kind of a bonus topic we're going to do, everybody who is listening and watching: the spiritual financial problem, the starseed dilemma. A lot of us real starseeds are not influencers without jobs, posting on scantily clad tarot readings on Instagram or anything like that. A lot of us real star seeds are we're stuck in the 9 to 5. We're stuck in the laws of the matrix reality. We have families to provide for, or we have to take care of ourselves, make our temporary human stay here a lot more comfortable than it could be, but it seems like it's a trend amongst a lot of us on our spiritual evolution, when it comes to holding jobs, when it comes to, saving money, when it comes to weird instances happening in our lives that kind of destroy our savings, that just seem to happen out of the blue or nothing. It seems like something we all kind of experience. And, the kind of what we're tossing around today are these two potential reasonings as to what this could be. Could it be ourselves? And now, why I say ourselves, of course, we're the source of 99% of our own issues. There's the rare 1% that is on the off chance that might not happen. But of course, our mental faculties interact with our world around us. And, and our obstacles, our mind is our biggest obstacle. So could it be something innately from us in our perspective of currency and how we see it and how it affects the world? Or is it possible there could be some kind of sabotage at play? And the reason why I bring this up as another possibility is because I did a show with Chris Matthew, the guy Don mentioned, and I brought up the concept. Could you imagine if somebody like us, like somebody like me, Don, David, Diana, or Karen here, we came into a whole bunch of money and we came into a whole bunch of notoriety and success? It would be absolutely endgame for the Parasite class. It would be done at that point, because now you have this individual, somebody like us, who's sitting on their portion of the world stage, who's combating the reality that they're trying to create, that they're trying to manifest. So that's why I bring it up as a possibility. It could be a combination of both too. We don't know, but let's start off with Don. Since we kind of went back the other way around, we'll go back the other way this time. So Don, what are your thoughts on this, man? Because you and I were kind of chatting about this a little bit before the show. And it's a very good point. And I've seen this as a trend that, a lot of us on our spiritual evolution, we seem to experience. So kind of let's get your thoughts on it, man. Do you think it could be a combination of both things or either one? I know you were leaning towards it more being from within ourselves. So let's kind of listen to what you have to say.
Well, and I can actually give two examples of where it could be both, because exactly like what you're saying is, like, for myself, I had a terrible outlook on the entire financial system. I had a terrible outlook on my job. I was miserable within my job. We always seemed to be broke because I would literally say that I hated money. I hated the financial system. I hated everything about it. Once I traveled a little further through my awakening, and Spinja was like, you need to stop saying that about money, because that's actually your energy and you're hating something of yourself and telling it to go away, right? She actually opened my eyes to that perspective on my financial energy, that was a part of me. So I shouldn't really hate it. It's mine to own. And that was a huge shift, right? And I also shifted my perspective on my job itself. As you know, it literally sucks shit. Right? I am a septic truck driver by trade, and I just do the best things that I can. I make the best out of it. I look at it. I have 8 hours a day of silence if I want it, to think about anything I want. Right? So this is a gift to me from the universe, and I'm paid handsomely to do it and do a job that most people wouldn't want to do. Right? On the other end of things, you have Canadian Spinja, who is at a job she absolutely loves. It is her absolute wheelhouse. But again, she's had this type of employment before, but there always seems to be an agitating energy that tries to push her out, even to the extent that she now works midnights by herself because of this energy that exists around something she enjoys. So it really could be either or.
Dude, you know what? As we've all realized this by now, but yeah, we realize that it seems the answers to these questions never really sway in either end of the polarity spectrum. It's not either this or that. We always seem to find that it holds attributes of both. And I think really kind of where it comes down to is our perspective on it. But exactly, like, me personally, like, I've seen what I grew up in a very materialistic family. I've seen what money does to people, and that caused me to despise it a little bit, like, yeah, to have people. But then it's like I shifted my perspective on currency, but then I experienced some of, like, the offhand events that seem like sabotage. But great one, Don. I dig it. It definitely could be both. David, what are your thoughts on this, man? Do you think that it is an organic instance from a block or a perspective within ourselves that it seems like a lot of the spiritual community has issues with finances? Or do you think it could be both or just sabotage? I mean, what are your thoughts? I'm probably sure you've experienced some of both yourself.
Oh, quite a bit. quite a bit. I mean, again, I could spend an entire episode, but I won't. Okay. But I used to work for. I had a pretty nice big tech job, and I was living in South Carolina. And honestly, like working where I worked, living where I lived, like you could live very well in the mid 20 teens. Like, I mean, I wasn't making $1 million, but I felt like I was living almost a millionaire lifestyle, just because of the cost of living was so low. And the company I worked for, I mean, honestly, the pay wasn't like it's less than I make now, but somehow it was like it was always enough that like if we wanted to do something fun, we just did it. But we were also pretty careless and didn't always make the wisest investments or there was never like enough extra to like plan ahead or something. And I'm sure some of that was because we weren't whatever wise enough with how we spent it. But it always seemed like there was anytime we had something extra and we're like, okay, let's start like planning something, something would come up, car would break down or like clockwork, like almost like, I mean, at first I didn't really always notice, but eventually, in like 2021, I was very early in my awakening, and somebody mentioned it to me. They're like, yeah, isn't it weird how like, we make all this money and yet every time we have something extra, it's like there's something that comes up and just takes it. And I'm like, yeah, wait a second, you noticed that too? It's like that's when awakening started to become real for me, when other people started telling me that they were having similar weird experiences. I was like, okay, I can't, it can't just be me that's crazy. Like there has to be something that's actually going on.
I'm with you, dude.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah. And, honestly, I could do a whole episode because there's a whole part of my life I haven't even told you about that, honestly, like a lot of people want to know about because, I tried going down the sovereign citizen path. Like I went hardcore, man. I put it all on the line. Okay. And for a while, honestly, it was good. I thought it was going to work. And then suddenly it just didn't. It all went to shit like that. And then
Interesting.
They came and foreclosed my home. And talk about spiritual ego. I had some spiritual ego because God sent me a lifeline. He sent a very nice lady right to my door who offered to buy the house for cash. And I was just like, no, I'm sticking to my guns. Like I'm not going to surrender. Well, I obviously, like, I should have listened to that, and I learned that lesson later. But that was part of my spiritual lesson. And so we packed up everything that we could into a 26-foot Penske truck and drove from South Carolina to Florida. I tell you right now, that was the hardest thing that I have ever had to do. Like the hardest. Like I've never driven a giant truck before, and I hope I never have to again. Like it was horrible. And we had to eat at the Waffle House, man. It was never again. But and honestly, it seemed bad. Like it seemed like everything was lost. I mean, I was like, God, why? Like I thought God had abandoned me. And well, not quite. I still didn't quite go that far, but again, there's so much I could talk about this experience. But it was hard, but here I am in Florida.
Yeah.
And I'm in my winning season. I mean, my wife and I are hopelessly in love. She's beautiful. And we have a beautiful son. We're not living in a mansion. We're living in a tiny condo apartment in paradise. and we have everything that we need, and more is coming. And God has blessed me so much, but He took me through some very challenging times. And so part of that whole journey was me learning how to manifest, like hardcore. Okay. So, and I've been learning from the best, man. Saint Germain, Neville Goddard, Samael Aun Weor, and let me tell you, this shit is real. It works. It absolutely works, because this is spirit. This is the truth. This is the power that Yeshua tried to teach us, and then they perverted it and turned it into a religion, which it's actually supposed to apply to any belief system, just like the Gnostic tradition believed. Slide.
100%, man. 100%. D. Well, of course, no, and it is. It's that is definitely an interesting story, especially because like you even knew it was a lifeline, but like at that point you chose this different path, you chose this different direction, but the path carved you, it sculpted you, it created you into who you are today. And I love your perspective, man. I mean, you are kind of in a little bit of paradise down there. You're in Florida. It's very nice down there all the time. I know, having family down there. I mean, you can go, it can be the middle of November and it'll be 80 degrees outside. You can go to the beach in the middle of November down there. So it's definitely great, but it's also our perspective, man. I think, and I'll get to that when I do my bit. It's the good enough perspective, which is good. You have to be able to appreciate where you're at. You have to be able to enjoy, where you're at. But at the same time, too, like you have to understand that you can want better for yourself, and that's okay. It's about the balance. Totally. All right, let's get to Diana real quick. Diana, have you experienced this at all in your life? Some of these financial blocks or financial instances? I remember we've chatted about, things with your job, but I know that was a little bit different compared to what we're talking about today. But have you experienced any of this at all? And do you think it could be something that stems from us? Could it be some kind of spiritual sabotage, or maybe a little of both?
Yeah. So I'll start with it is our own fault. But I will start with what David said. And I want to make us like little sticks with 100% on it. So when people are talking, I get such like a, yes, I agree with you. Because with what Jesus said, give us this day our daily bread. And that has been true my entire life. Have I been rich ever? There was parts when I was young where I thought I was, and I got a bunch of credit and I spent it all. I remember calling my friends going, I got $12,000. And they're like, Diana, how'd you get $12,000? They just sent me a credit card. It's 12. I'm like, Diana, you did not just get $12,000. But no, like my brain at I think 21 was like, I just got $12,000. That was spent within a year. And then I went and got another credit card and another credit card. And I was working the whole time, and that always paid my way. But all the fun I had, and I always make sure to have lots of fun, was on credit cards. And I was very generous. I take my friends out. We went to hotels, we went to restaurants. I lived a rich person's life. But by mid-20s, I had to, it's not full bankruptcy, it's called a proposal. My husband actually made me do it before we got married, because I was in so much debt. And it was shocking, but it was fun. So I don't regret it. But it was not the wise thing to do, and I wouldn't do it again. I have a problem. Okay, so here we go with the Neville Goddard way, because Neville Goddard wants you to live like you're rich. Not that Neville Goddard wants, but I understand that within the old, that's mind. And everything Neville Goddard says is completely correct. But Neville Goddard and the people back then that it was working for must not have had so much trauma and pre-programming, because there is something that is self-sabotaging. Because if you notice the people that make it big and make it rich, they don't overly seem traumatized. They don't overly seem, if they did have something happen, they seem like they've actually gotten over it completely. I find the blocks come because we are not completely over our wounding. we haven't completely healed those issues inside us of what, like, because we're talking timelines too, and we're talking intention. Because what am I actually going to spend the money on? I've tried to manifest so many huge things, and but I don't know overly what I want. So I don't know if any of you have an experience where you truly, truly wanted it and all the things were aligned and it didn't happen. I usually find, even when I'm talking to people, it's more of a clarification issue. They don't fully know what they want. And the people that do get successful, like your Elon Musks and even your Joe Dispenzas, Bruce Lipton, all these people that are top notch, Matthias Stefano, Sarah herself, they know what they want. They're 100% on where they are going. And I think that matters so deeply and truly. And I'm actually all right with not fully knowing right now, because I think a lot of what my position is to take in all the information and amalgamate it. And I am a walking science experiment. That's what I bring back to people. So, like, starting with all these problems I did emotionally, mentally, physically, and as I've been transcending them, they now give me the complete information to teach somebody on how to do that. And when it comes to finances, we're doing all right. My husband actually makes really good money, but that's all him. But that's another thing with me. I've never wanted to be the breadwinner. I'm not interested. I'm very feminine that way. That's your job. You're the man. But and it's good for men to have that. I mean, I know Karen was the breadwinner, and like, you go girl, because that's awesome. I've never had that energy. I'm a projector. I don't know if that's why I've never wanted to. I want money, and I want to do things with it, like build a spiritual center and do all these like fantastic things with it. But do I want to be a CEO of a business? No. Do I want to work full time? No. Do I want to, you know what I mean? All the things that would bring you a lot of money. Am I going to do that myself? No. So then it's like, where do you go? Because your spirit, it has to all align, like in complete harmonious balance, to get yourself to that high degree of money, because it is a supreme area of trust. Because like you said, like if they're handing it to us, oh, we would do such fantastic, amazing things. And then I think I would. Or are they just the coal going into the diamond? Are we not diamonds yet, perhaps? And there's so much more to learn, because we're in a very complex world where people have extremely complex trauma that they need to get through. And I do see that as my mission, because that is something I am naturally doing. It's something that my brain just does automatically, the way it processes like a computer, to like see trauma, fix trauma, see trauma, fix trauma. If I was handed a bunch of money, it would change what I'm doing. I would probably just go on unlimited vacations. I mean, I would open my spiritual center too. But I would just like live a spiritual life. So I would basically stop doing the work that's going to benefit humanity, is essentially what would end up happening. So there is cosmic blocks on us. There is internal blocks on us. There's so much, but I have broken out of the paradigm. I remember one of the last times I saw my mom, she came up to see me, the only time she saw my house, and we're walking and she looks right at me and goes, "Oh, forget about being rich. That'll never happen." And I kind of just like, naturally did a look, because no offense, mom, but I've already like well surpassed the family, lineage of what money is. And she I didn't say anything. It was just a look to a look, and she literally changed her look and changed the subject. And I wanted that to get through to her, because they had that mentality their whole life. If you're not born rich, forget about being rich. And that was a lot of my poor meing early on. Oh, I wasn't born rich, poor me. But no, you can become rich whenever you're aligned to be rich. And then that just is personal between you and spirit. And that's my take.
That's a very good one, and that one resonates, Diana, for sure, because it's we do have these blocks, and it comes from perspective. I'll give my 2 cents after Karen's done over here real quick. So Karen, let's kind of hear your story about this real fast, then I'll go and we'll
Yeah.
sum everything up. Yeah.
I'd be like ditto on what Diana just said. It's the inner wound. I mean, and I also have to say, like, when I say that I was like the breadwinner, because my husband would say, "Oh, my sugar mama." Technically, we pretty much made the same, except he's more hourly with overtime and I was salary. So it was actually pretty even, because I feel kind of bad saying, "Oh yeah, I was a sugar," but he would say that. But um but it's interesting when you say about alignment. And my challenge with finances has been that he still, yeah, as much as I browbeat him about careful with your words. Don't say that. Don't speak that into existence. Like, oh, I don't have money. We can't afford, like, blah, blah. I'm like, no. Circumstances don't matter. Your frequency matters. That's how you create in the now. Shut up with the poverty mindset. So I'm kind of battling that because it seeps into my consciousness. And honestly, within the last several years, I was one that paid off. Like, I used credit cards for the free points, and I could buy so much free stuff, just blah, blah, pay it off. I broke the system. Now it's like numbers on a screen, Federal Reserve banknote, doesn't mean anything. I'm not putting my faith or my energy into it. Oh, I owe that much. Like, I don't know if it's denial or sticking my head in the sand, but I'm like, I've always been able to, no matter what, being laid off, or whatever it was, circumstances. Hey, you're always creating your future in the now. I'm not going to let myself get worked up over stack of bills. I used to always check them every single week. Now I'm only going to open them once a month. If some of them are late and need an extra fee, so what? Does it matter? I don't care. Can I not is something going to happen if I don't hit the deadline? And that was like a program for me. You always have to pay it off. No debt, no debt. Like, that's how strict I was brought up. Both my parents worked, only child, latchkey, typical, 90s kind of a thing. And so very independent, I pay my way. I'd already bought my house by the time my husband and I met. So it was just interesting that I've never really had that struggle until the last few years of basically, not being able to have a regular job, and just having the trust and faith that, hey, I'm going to do what I love, and trust the masters, trust the people that have written all these books on abundance and magic and law of attraction. And that's one of the things that really made me understand the core of my alignment is gratitude. If the world were going to blow up tomorrow, I'm fine. I've lived a happy life. I have a wonderful home. I have a wonderful family. If it's all over, that's okay. Like, that detachment, I think, is also a key element with the money manifesting, is just not being attached to it. Some people are like, oh, well, you must know exactly how much you want. And some people are like, just like, whatever. So it's kind of like, it's whatever works for you. But I always go back to the basics. Just have a good time, feel happy, grateful heart's a magnet for miracles. That's my thing. So just be happy and enjoy the people that cross your path. As you said, Stephen, the path is the way that, we grow and we refine ourselves, but also understanding that we are also the path, and we get to choose. We get to choose how we feel about that pile of bills and those numbers. They're just numbers. It's not me. I refuse to be labeled by those numbers of a credit score. So, yeah.
Absolutely. That's very good. No, and it is. It's a lot of it has to do with gratefulness too. That's something huge. That's why I'm a huge believer in everybody should have at least some kind of gratefulness ritual or some kind of hold space for gratefulness every single day, whether it's in the morning, whether it's in the evening, because what that does is it helps you integrate that frequency into you, and you learn what it means to exercise, what it means to be grateful. And it's like being grateful is not just being grateful for all of the good things. It's you're grateful for pretty much everything. I mean, even at your lowest that's one of the biggest things I can even remember, at the lowest of lowest points of my life. Like, if I had somewhere to sleep, if I had food in my belly, if I at least knew I was going to work and I was able to provide for myself, I would be grateful. I would be good. And in turn, that's when the universe would provide. I mean, when my wife and I moved to Colorado, man, we sold everything we had. We had $500 to our name, and we drove across the country to come live to where we're living right now. But the universe blessed us for that leap of faith and staying grateful. We got all new furniture. We got all the stuff back that we ended up having to sell or give away. And it is, that's what I would say is very important. And also, don't dang yourself or damn yourself. What we speak is very important, how we feel about certain things. I mean, for me, this is what I'm going to say. I do believe that most of the instances do come from us, kind of like I was saying before. Like, I grew up in a very materialistic family. Like, they didn't respect you unless you owned a freaking massive house. You had freaking Cadillacs in your driveway. You worked in an office position. You had to wear a suit and a tie to work every day. That's a real job. Okay. Like, things like that. That was the mentality that, I saw growing up when it came, to being about money. So, of course, like, I saw at a very young age, I was like, this is bullshit. Like, like people are acting this way because they have a few more numbers in their bank account. And at first that kind of gave me like a disgust towards, people with a lot of money. At that time I was young. I kind of generalized everybody who had money to be in this like shitty category, or, it just seems like only shitty people get a lot of money, or, and that was the mentality I had. Of course, too, there was a time early in my life where I was not responsible with money either when I did have it. Very similar to kind of what Diana did. As soon as I could get credit cards, I would max them out. But then, of course, that I had to refine myself a little bit and understand. This was actually something I did learn from, I believe it was either Prince Aya back when he first started. I don't know if you guys ever knew about him, but he did a YouTube channel where he do a lot of spiritual motivational stuff. And there was another guy talking about it too. So you have to view currency as energy. Right. And this kind of comes down into, like, we can't refute our human experience. I know there's so many people in our community that's like, I'm done being a human. I want to go back to the higher realms. I'm done being here. And like, yes, we might feel that way sometimes. Like, I posted the meme the other day. Have you ever think what in the soul contract is going on? And I was like, and I know Sam posted that too. And, it is like, you're like, what in the soul contract is going on? But, nonetheless, we're in this human experience, that's a form of energy that we have to learn to accept as it being an energy, not something that, has a bad tie to it. It's really, in all eyes, kind of to what Diana and Karen were saying too. It's about shifting our perspective when it comes to money, when it comes to currency. And also too, like I was bringing up a little bit earlier, where it's like it's good enough or it's good enough. Like, yes, like there's a fine balance, and we see this in a lot of the self-help circles. I know, I think Dr. Joe Dispenza talked about it too. Is it's okay to appreciate and be grateful for where you are, but also cultivate the understanding within yourself and the balance within yourself, that knowing that you can achieve more, knowing that you do deserve more. And because, I mean, yes, well, this might be good enough for now, you're comfortable, but you deserve more. You deserve what you're looking for, what you absolutely want. You've done the work to get there. So it's about understanding and instilling the mentality of that you deserve this and this is for you, and it's about maintaining that alignment also. And I kind of agree with what Diana was saying too. Like, it is like when you're in that complete alignment, I guess you could say, you will kind of get that boost in abundance to kind of drive you, because at that point you've done the growing, you've done the learning, you've done the remembering, to where you're not going to receive this abundance and go off the rails of your own evolution after receiving the abundance. You can kind of like grow a little bit and you get a little bit. That's kind of what I'm saying. In the rare instances though, this is kind of where it's like, I do believe it's majorly us that put these blocks. But like I said, there's those rare instances where it just seems like something could come out of like the blue. I don't know. That could be us too, an experience we chose to have to help us grow. I just, there's certain things that kind of make me go like, could there be like a little taking advantage of this, by some energies? Like, and it's probably, it could very well be a thing. But again, guys, we are the source of 99% of our own problems. So we are the source of 99% of the things that happen to us. So that's something to take into consideration. Guys, this was a great time. Lots of great wisdom from everybody, lots of great experiences from everybody. I know we had some pretty deep topics today that we could have expanded upon more, but nonetheless, guys, amazing time, amazing panel. So let's kind of go down a roll call real quick. Don, why don't you tell all the viewers and the listeners where they can find you and what you're working on right now?
You can find me on the Forbidden Knowledge Network on all audio platforms, on podcast platforms, I should say, and on my own YouTube and Rumble channels, Don Rogers at March 4th Productions. And as we mentioned on the top of the show, I'm absolutely honored that on Wednesday I will be joined by Sarah the Alchemist, and I am already shaking. So that is going to be phenomenal.
You got this, my friend. You got this. Sarah is such a cool person. She's super easy to talk to. We've been there. So you've got this, man. And congrats. I'm happy you're having this interview, bro. It's going to be a fantastic time for you, and it's going to be perspective changing. Sarah's just something else, man. So congrats, my friend. David, the Lion, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and anything that you're working on at this point in time?
Sure. Well, I'm on just about all the big socials. I'm on TikTok, X, YouTube, and Facebook. And I usually go by the Lion or the Lion of God, or it's at the Lion KD 369 or at the Lion KD 1133. and I produce weekly video content. Right now I'm doing a series called Ascended Master Wisdom. It's from a Oracle card deck that was gifted to me a few years ago, and was part of my introduction to learning about the Ascended Masters. And over time I began to feel like these are not little pieces of wisdom that I should be sharing. And so I decided to do like a Saturday morning public service announcement style video that I feel like works well, especially for like TikTok's format. And so I just have this little cartoon lion pop up on the screen, and it's kind of like mysterious and creepy, but also like majestic and cool. And then he just comes on and he says, he repeats some words of wisdom from one of the many Ascended Masters, and then just kind of disappears. And I have enough content. I'm going to be continuing to work on those for several weeks, and then probably months, actually. And nice. And then, I'm looking at other ways of expanding my content aside from that. I mean, I'm streaming this live onto my YouTube. And I'm considering other ways that I want to branch out. I did one short video where I'm just reading a passage from Unveiled Mysteries by Guy Ballard, aka Godfrey Ray King. And I'm probably gonna try to do a few more videos in that format as well.
Awesome, man. I dig it. It's good to always expand. It's always good to try some new things. It's fucking around and finding out is truly the best way. It really is. So freaking Diana, why don't you tell everybody where they can find you and anything that you're working on currently right now? Your microphone.
Thank you.
No
the main hub is transcendingascension.com, which I thank you, Karen, for liking it, because one never knows. And there's no comment section there to say like, I like it. But so I'm glad. I put a lot of time into setting it up, and I wanted to just be as clear as possible. I offer ministry services. I am an ordained metaphysical minister. And before that, I was a life coach. So I still do both, because life coaching is what I'll charge you for. Ministry is what I won't charge you for. And there's a difference, because ministry is we're talking pure spirit. Life coaching is we could talk about whatever you want because you're paying me. But I actually prefer ministry because I only ever like to talk about the soul. And I'll find a way to talk about the soul anyways, just as a warning. because everything has to do with the soul. And then I'm on YouTube, which has years of content now, and I've played around with how I do it and what I say, and I'm back to just me. I was doing cartoons for a while, but I'm back to just me. The audience isn't liking them, and it's like maybe it's just the spirit telling me it's got to be me. So, you know, I like the cartoons personally, but that's, letting that ego go. So, and then I'm on X a lot, which I joined to help make my thoughts more clear. I have an open throat center in human design, and that causes a lot of my intelligence in a weird way, because I could be this big computer, but it also helps me focus my thoughts, because that's important. And that has helped me grow so much as how I met you, Stephen, and how we've come to know everybody. So I'm very grateful for Twitter. And Stephen and I are working on a book that should hopefully be out in 2026. So that's what we're working on. And yeah, other than that, it's just complete constant alchemy and self-revelation.
Dig it. And last but not least, Karen, let's know where everybody can find you and anything that you're working on lately.
Not super online yet, but on X at Karen Lisa 777. That's where I've been most active, which isn't super much lately, but getting there. My website is gratefulheart.com, GREATFULL, 3 words. Because you gain your spiritual power, your strength, your self-mastery. Embrace greatness in yourself and create a great life. That's my philosophy. And what I absolutely loved, like when I saw Diana's website, because that's exactly like where I'm at, what I do, what I love, like the ministry, the helping people. I don't chart, but then it's also, with the Reiki and the guy, like, you're basically paying me, to listen to your whining and blah, blah for a while and to set you on the path. And if, not being a grifter, giving you actual information and saying, hey, this is on you. I'm not going to magically whoosh, you're healed. Oh my God. Like, no, there's plenty of people for that. So I appreciate having this community and opportunity to be around, really authentic souls doing the work to reconnect, remember who we are, remember the power that we have, trust that when we maintain our vibration, our focus. And Diana, there's actually a building I drive past that's for sale, this big old bank building. I'm like, I would love to, convert that, have some apartments for people, a cafe, a library. I could do classes, and hey, someone can come in and do yoga, someone can run this and that. Then that way I don't have to work all the time. So I'm right there with you. I want to have fun. I want to share love, inspire, high vibes, wherever it's at. And, and that's all we have to do is focus on the feeling and, trust that it is coming around. There's enough people who are being lit up within their soul and their awareness of truth and exiting the control of fear and lack. We've been through a lot. And a message that's come through a lot for me in the past few years is the worst is over. And in my soul, I feel like, we go through these hardships because then when we heal them, when we release them, that only makes us better teachers and have more empathy and understanding. Like, I don't judge people that have their addictions or have done things that they're ashamed and guilty of. I'm like, we're all doing the best we can with what we knew at the time. That version of me, that's not me. We're always someone different. And just focusing on the love and the integrity and the frequency and just letting it work out and just living your life. That's, trying to escape humanity, but realizing, hey, these physical bodies, we can have some good fun. Like, let's do that and shift to focusing on the fun, because the spirits can't necessarily experience what we experience, whether it's tasting amazing food or snuggling our dogs or smelling the flowers. I was looking at Sam's pictures of those flowers. I like the energy of the flower, just appreciating beauty. What you focus on is what you grow.
100%. Real quick, a shout out to Frankie Elliott, because I can't respond to comments on X. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And anything and all things are possible. We are getting there, arriving soon. Would completely agree. So, guys, in the bottom of the or in the description of the Rumble and the YouTube videos, I have everybody's X accounts, so you can find them there. Except for Don's, because he's new today. So I'll tell you what his is. It's at Don Rog, ROG 78. If you want to go ahead and give him a follow. And of course, you know where you can find me on the Forbidden Knowledge Network with all of these other great podcasts, including Don sitting next to me. He is on the Forbidden Knowledge Network as well. And www.forbiddenknowledge.news. Please support everybody's documentaries over there. They're really great. Original content creators with no narrative, putting their heart and soul into everything they make, for sure. And you guys can also find me on Rumble and YouTube under BGcast, and all social media under BGcast as well. I have my X profile in the description as well. Yes, I'm working on a book with Diana. I just did my first public talk. The reason why it's not been uploaded yet is because Liberty on the Rocks is actually doing some special editing for me, and it's going to look really dope. So yes, there's going to be a little bit of a delay, but it is coming out soon, I promise. And I have something big coming up for 2026. I'm not going to drop it just yet. Once I get a little bit more of the stuff planned and everything together, I'll be letting you know what's going on. But let's just say I'm working on a place where we can all meet up in person and we can have a great time and we can get to, know each other and in deeper personal level. I think that's something we need a little bit of an outlet for that at this point. We've gotten to know each other online. We've gotten to know each other as people, and it would be really cool to take it a step further and actually all kind of hang out with each other around a bonfire, doing some cool things, like having great conversations. So that's kind of what I got in the works for me. Again, thank you everybody for joining the X Sunday Spiritual Panel. I appreciate all of the viewers and listeners, and I will be back on Wednesday with Ryder Lee of Raised by Giants. We are going to be discussing, are we in a simulation, and is our food potentially being simulated? This is going to be an interesting one. So if you guys want to come swing by on Wednesday, I will be back then. But other than that, thanks guys. Appreciate everybody who stopped in today. I'll catch y'all next Wednesday. Take care and have a good rest of your Sunday.